Welcome to this tutorial, guys. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover some questions on trigonometric functions and do some questions. In the last video in the previous video, we did just drawing out the graphs and giving some meaning to them. Okay, so the first thing is all of these questions are in radians, so we need to get our calculators into radian mode. So if you're using a Casio or one of these calculators, which most people do, then you just click Shift mode and then option 4, which is radians. Okay, and then you're ready to go. So essentially, we just asked to get the answers to these questions. But before we do that, let's think about what we're actually asking or being asked. Okay, so we've got sine of some angle of some value theta. Okay, so we're essentially been given this x-axis value, right? And we're being told, so when we get 2.2, we're getting asked somewhere here to find, okay, let's zoom in, there we go. So we're being given 2.2 and we're being told to give us this y-intercept. So that's what all these questions are asking us. It's asking us to give the output or the y-intercept. Okay, so let's get into these questions. Okay, so the first question is fairly straightforward. You just put it into your calculator and get the output. So it's just plug and chug. There we go, 808. That's the answer to the first one. Cos of 4 is equal to minus 0,654. So not much thinking here, guys, just putting it into your calculator. Tan 4.5 is equal to 4.637. Okay, now we have sec. Okay, if you look at your calculator, there's no function for sec or cosec or cot. So what are we going to do? So we use a relationship that we know of. So we know that sec is equal to 1 over cos of that angle of 4, which is equal to minus 1.53. Okay, then cosec, so the relationship is 1 over sine of that angle, sine of 3, which is equal to 7,086. So essentially, okay, I'll get to that. So cot of 7.1 is 1 over tan of 7.1, which is equal to 0,939. Okay, sine of 2 pi is equal to 0. Okay, so let's use this as an example because it's very nice. So our input here is 2 pi, and we say that the answer is 0. So we go to our sine graph, and if we look at our sine graph at 2 pi, so let's get a nice different color, at 2 pi right over here, our value is in fact 0. So we know that the answer is correct. So that's the relationship that we have. Okay, going on to the next question, cot of pi over 2. Okay, so that's 1 over tan of pi over 2. Okay, so if we put this into our calculator, we get an error. So there is no solution. Okay, so does this make sense? Why is there no solution to this question? Okay, so let's look at our tan graph at pi over 2. So if we look at our tan graph at pi over 2, we have an asymptote right here. So it makes sense that there's no solution. The graph can never cut pi over 2. So there we go. That's the reason why we get no solution. Okay, we can also justify it in another way. We know, or I hope that we know, that tan theta, let's actually change colors. We know that tan theta is equal to sine theta over cos theta. Okay, using that relationship, let's get that. So 1 over tan pi over 2 is equal to 1 over sine pi over 2 over cos pi over 2. Okay, rearranging it, we get cos, we get sine pi over 2 over cos pi over 2. So what is this value of sine pi over 2? So if you go to pi over 2 with the sine graph, it's 1 and cos is So the value of the sine graph is 1. So we have equals 1. And if we go to the cos graph, cos, there's a bit of a mistake here actually. Okay, this is pi over 2, and then this is pi. Okay, if we go to the cos graph, the value is 0. So 1 over 0. And what we know, we can't do that. So 1 over 0 is undefined, so we have no solution. Okay, so that makes sense why we get no solution, or we can justify why that makes sense. Okay, looking at cosec pi over 2, that's just 1 over cos pi over 2, which again is 1 over, because that's the same thing as this essentially, it's 1 over 0, so we get no solution once again. Okay, so I hope that made sense to you guys. Again, these are some very basic questions. Most of them you just put into your calculator and get an output. Nothing too serious and nothing too difficult. Yeah, so I hope this helped, guys, and thanks for watching.